Hello everyone, Alex here. Continuing with our Revit from 0 to 100 multi-trade course, we're going to continue with our roof structure. Today's turn is the laundry. So for that, we're going to create some laundry rafters. The first thing we're going to do is ensure that we have the correct structural members as far as depth and width. Then we're going to create a rafter system. And then finally, we're going to do some adjustments as far as scoping so that it looks nice. See you there. And remember, this video is part of our Revit Multi-trade from 0 to 100 course. So if you haven't seen the previous videos, go ahead and watch them now, because if not, you're going to be completely lost. Hi everyone, this is Alex with BIMitUp, where we help you with professional training and coaching in mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection systems, and Autodesk platforms like Revit and AutoCAD MEP. Let's get started. All right, now let's hit the roof structure for the laundry, and that is located right here on the southwest part of the house, and it's being framed by rafters running north-south. So this is a view of it looking south, this is a view of it looking east, and then this is a view of it looking north. As far as the structural members, you have this 2x8s serving as rafters running north-south. You have this 2x10 serving as the main ridge right here, and then you have this 4x6 running east-west midways of the rafters. So let's try to do that in Revit. And for that, we're going to use a beam system. The first thing we want to do is make sure that structure-wise we have the beams that we need. So we have our 2x6s here, we have our 2x8, we have our 2x10, so that's good. But we're missing that 4x6. See, we have a 6x4, but we don't have a 4x6. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. That's fairly easy. So just duplicate. Then we're going to change this to 4x6. And now we're going to flip this 2, guys. So this would be, this 5.5 would become 3, and this 3 will become a 5.5. Let's do OK. And now we're ready to do our beam system. And for that, I'm going to go to the 3D view. I'm going to prepare my 3D view for that to make it easier on myself. So I'm going to shrink this so I only see the roof. Then I'm going to look at it from underneath. Now I'm going to go under structure. Instead of beam, I'm going to go beam system. Now I'm going to set my work plane as the underside of this roof. So I'm going to go here to set work plane, and I'm going to pick a plane, hit OK. And sometimes it's hard to select, but here it is. It seems like I'm selecting it. See, that's the main roof. So I'm going to click here. So that's my plane. And now I want to pick lines. So I'm going to go here, pick lines. And I'm going to go, and I can do that from the roof framing level. I can probably pick here, 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 and here. And then I can do trim, TR, from here to here. This is already done, so I don't have to do anything. This one's already done. And then from here to here. I may have to adjust this a little bit later, but for now that's fine. Now you have to make sure that your beam direction is the correct one. So in this case, I want my rafters to go north-south, so that's fine. You see, this is what defines it. But if you didn't want that, you would come here to beam direction, and then you would pick a line, and then you would pick like this one, and then that would make them running west-east. In our case, we're fine. As a spacing, by default, I have 18 inches. Notice that by default, the beam type that I have selected is 2x10. That's not what I want. What I want is 2x8. So I'm going to change this to 2x8. And I believe this spacing is either 16 inches or 18 inches on center. That's not a big deal because I can figure it out. There are 8 beams, and I can easily measure the distance from here to here. And it's about 11 feet. And if I get 11 feet and I multiply by 12, that's 132 inches. And then if I divide that by 8, I get 16.5. So it's 16 inches. So look at that, we got lucky. By default, the spacing is 16 inches, so let's just hit OK. And that's looking beautiful. Let's take a look at our 3D view. Those are our rafters, very nice. We should probably take a look at a section. So let's bring our section. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Let's bring it here. Let's extend it a bit. Let's take a look at it. And although that's looking decent as far as the slope and the size, we can see that we're double dipping here, right? In reality, this should not be Z justified to the top. It should be Z justified to the bottom. So now let's study this condition a little bit. We have our shingle layer here. Then we have our plywood sheeting, which is 3/4 of an inch. Let's take a look at the structure actually. Let's do things right. So see, we have our asphalt, which is 1/4 inch, and our plywood, which is 3/4 inches. And then the structure, which is what we're after, is 5.5. So 3/4 plus 1/4 is 1 inch. So all we need to do is click on that system. And then we probably want to just move it from here. Look at our section. And that's very good. So now that I have the beam system created, I'm just going to go to the top view. I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Just nudge it to the left a little bit so I can see it like that. But I could, for example, select each one of these beams and unpin it, and then I could nudge it right a little bit as such. And then this one, for example, if I try to move it without unpinning it and I nudge to the left, it gives me this error, right? So I just click on it, I unpin it, and I can move a little bit to the left just like that. I can do the same thing with this one. Unpin it, and then move it a little bit to the left. And then if you want to comply with your 16-inch on center, you just dimension from here to here, and then that's under the 16, so you're fine. And the same thing on this side. Another thing you can do is, if you want to get picky on how this looks, you can do something similar to what we did with the rafters. So let's go to my section. You could click on this one. You would have to unpin it, and you could extend a little bit more past the ridge, right? So let me do WT so we can tile the windows. And you see here we're way past. And then what you could do is you could go to Cope, and then you would say, okay, this one with this one, and then it will give you a very nice finishing here. You see? I don't know if you can tell, but hopefully you can, that this is different from this. So you could do that one by one. I'm actually gonna do it just because I'm picky, just because I think it looks better, but it's not really that important to us. And we move our section just behind that one. You can see the difference, see? And then you can adjust that coping distance like we did before. Now make sure you visit BIMitUp.com. Over there you'll be able to log in if you already have login information, or if you want to become a member, you can sign up with Google, Facebook, or with your email address. And once you're a member and you're logged in, you have access to a lot of good features. You can access your bookings from here, you can go to my programs, and even some free ones that I offer there. I'm running a little bit of a scholarship program here, because I don't want money to be the reason why you cannot develop professionally. So these are all the programs that I'm a participant on, and these are the ones that I have completed. So go ahead and visit BIMitUp.com. Becoming a member is free, but I do not run ads in any of my stuff. So the creation of the content is made possible entirely from patrons and other contributions. So if you can, consider subscribing. I'll leave a link in the description of the video, and I'll see you soon.